Merry meet, Annie here with this week's YouTube Pagan Challenge question, which is, what does deity, God, divine mean to you? I love the question because it's ever evolving and changing for me. My relationship to whatever's greater, the mystery behind the wonder of the universe, sometimes is very simplistic. Sometimes it feels like when I look into the eyes of my chosen gods, I'm looking into my own eyes, into my soul, into my wiser self. I relate to them very powerfully then as inner wisdom, sometimes even collective wisdom of all who have gone before, and bigger than that, all who have yet to come. So wisdom, a connection to the wisdom of the ages, which also at times is my own inner wisdom and instinct. In my conversations with deity at that point, I'm talking to the me that knows better. Maybe it's the collective me, maybe it's the me here who's forgotten something. So wisdom and inner wisdom and instinct. I also relate to them historically as what they represented, who they were in their time. I'm going to do a separate video because I've had some questions come in recently about how I think about appropriated divinity, honoring the gods of other cultures and times. That's a different conversation, but I'm going to put it up pretty soon after this video. But I relate to the gods as I have chosen to see them as history, as representative of their time, sometimes that are very different than the present one. But the power of their archetype and what they teach, and that's the word here really, I relate to them then as archetype, as who they were in their time and what they still teach in a contemporary sense, but also as a way to explore further the mystery of the divine here and now for me. I don't think it's an accident when any god from any culture makes itself known to me, tickles my curiosity or my fancy, and has me reading and learning about them. Again, more in my appropriation video, which I'm going to do separately. But for this video, the gods of all time matter to me. They represent the wisdom of all time. They're powerful in this moment, in the here and now, in what they reveal to me of the greater mystery. They are indeed faces to a wider sense of divinity that I relate to. So gods can be instinct and wisdom and history and archetype. The power of myth, lore, the power of the fairy tale, the ancient tale, the sharing of wisdom that's not too different from century to century. All of those things put me in relationship to the gods as divine, as the faces that have introduced themselves to me that I can look into the eyes of, which represent the greater mystery of the divine. And my first personal spirituality holds the divine as the creator of all that is. And the individual gods that I have come to know over the years have been brought to me, and I really do feel they've been brought to me as a way for me to further explore myself and myself in relation to the greater mystery of living. Not just my own living, but the vast experience of existence. I do relate to a god and a goddess, which to me are specifically divine in nature, separate and sentient, existing whole and complete, not always predictable, but always there for me, individual and with very distinct personalities. That's in part because of my early years in traditional working groups. But it is more powerfully what they have become to me in the years since then, the decades that have gone by, where they have become at times more familiar, at times more challenging, They presented me the opportunity to understand that I can't declare what they are. They are, in all the years of my life as they unfold, declaring to me what they are and what I can expect of them and what they expect of me. Those gods, to me, are distinct faces of the one divine energy. I gave up a long time ago trying to decide if I'm a monotheist. Whether the gods I know as the god and the goddess are faces of the one mystery or distinct and separate on their own. Sometimes it feels they're two very distinct personalities. Other times it feels like they are the wondrous children born from the great unity. I'm comfortable with that thought, that the great unity, the thing from which we all come and return, is a mystery that I can never truly understand except in these bits of moments, little tiny epiphanies, sometimes large epiphanies if I'm truthful. Sometimes I see my gods, the god and the goddess, relating to that as I relate to them. Not needing necessarily to know, but needing to feel, in a sense believe, but most importantly, understanding all the different facets of the connection between us. Over the years, of course, I have met matron and patron deities. These deities for me have been more, they've come to me to introduce me to facets of mystery that either deepen the relationship I have with the god and the goddess, or they provide me with something different that I haven't considered before. Oh, sometimes they've been for a certain time in my life that I later realize I needed them. Other times they come and they stay. They're not distinct from having their own divinity, but what's most important about them is their lessons and their teachings. In the end, when I still turn towards mystery, to open myself up to its possibility, to question and even challenge it, I return to the god and the goddess as I know them as the face of eternity, of all that is and can be, everything that's a possibility. At any given time, I can look at my relationship to individual gods and goddesses, the god and goddess, which are the center of my personal spiritual practice, and indeed the mystery they all align to, as stories. Stories I tell, by the way, about them. And as true faces to mystery, divine in their own right. But there's a wholeness in my experience of the years that I have honored chosen gods, whether I've chosen them or they've chosen me, by the way. There's a wholeness to all of it that seems to come together. It's like a spider web that I'm the center of, that there is no instance that I can't reach out in one direction or the other for something specific, but everything feels connected in some way. Sometimes I have moments where I understand the connection. They're very fleeting, though. And they tend to disappear very quickly when I try and analyze. Well, is this a story I'm telling myself? Is this a bit of mythology or history? Is this some aspect of mystery? Is this experience with this entity truly a relationship to a higher sense of the divine? The place I am positive about that is in my relationship to the god and the goddess, around which my personal spirituality circles. They are divine to me. Whether they are in balance, all that is of the divine, or whether they are together faces of the one possibility of creation and chaos and rebirth that's mystery. I've never felt the need to be sure about that. I've always felt the need to explore it fully. And what I gain the most from it is when I realize in any minute what it means to me, an honor that it might be different from moment to moment. So the gods to me can be history and lore. They can be wisdom and instinct and deep knowing, including the wisdom of connecting to the greater collective wisdom of human possibility. They can be faces to the one source, the ultimate mystery, the ultimate expression of divinity. Or they can be separate and distinct in their own right, the children of that oneness. Perhaps separated out from that oneness in the story I tell, for me to be able to recognize them, to see in them who I am and who I might become, to relate to them on a poignant and human level, at the same time understanding that behind all of that is a great mystery that is part of the wonder of exploring a spiritual path. There's no one answer for me. At any one moment I will relate to any of my partners that may or may not be divine in that moment. Exploring the depths of my connection to them, and therefore my connection outside of myself into this something that is so much greater. My personal story is there's a oneness from which everything, including my gods, came from. I'm not sure how connected it is to all of its creations after they are birthed. I do know that my relationship to the god and the goddess have them intimately connected to the here and the now and what's happening in their name in response to when I reach out to them, when I'm connected to them, even when the world reaches out to them. I love that in this particular path that so many of us share, we don't have to define or name for sure. I know that when we come together in groups, I think as a couple of weeks down the road we discuss groups, that the beauty of it is we don't have to have the same definition for any of this. That there's a shared energy in a way that we come into contact with. That's the interconnectedness of all the possibilities of what archetypes and gods and the greater mystery might be. There's a shared place, a powerful shared place I've had with people over the years, if our individual practices and beliefs are different. That's kind of the joyful place, the shared place in the greater mystery that I've always enjoyed being in a pagan community. So, whether it's stories or archetypes, the lessons of history, greater wisdom, instincts, and deep knowing from within, or whether it truly is that greater unity of creation, having chosen the face it will reveal to me. Am I opening up to that? The gods, divinity, and for me, mystery, and the greater mystery. Most importantly for this video, never having had the need to define in any moment what they are. Simply to experience. I wish you all mirth and reverence. Mary Part.